Hello and welcome to today's video. My name's ArbieG and today we're back with the VW Beetle Championship round 6 or round 11 and 12 depending on how you slice it, as we're doing two 20-minute races in Gr.3 Beetles. First based on a qualifier, a one-shot qualifier, then we do a reverse grid. So we're in round 6 and let's flip over and have a look at the championship. We currently find ourselves in 8th place overall across the whole championship, but in terms of tier 2 we're only in 3rd place, so doing actually pretty well as we're behind Legion and Dan, who are well ahead of us in terms of pace. They're much faster than us, so we've got not really much hope in terms of beating them. So it's looking pretty good so far. So today we're at Tokyo Expressway East Outer Loop, which is the first time I've actually raced on one of the Tokyo Expressway tracks, which are more sort of street tracks than tracks. I don't know if I can say track tracks, but it's ones that are more based inside streets, and obviously that means that nearly all the tracks got a wall either side of it, and some of the parts of it are really narrow and can make it quite hard to pass. But we qualified in 5th today for our first race, so we're in 5th place to start us off for race number 1 today, and let's see how we get on. As we've got someone new today, Iron Doctor, who we haven't raced against before, Emil Priestler in 7th, who we haven't raced before, but we've got a lot of the same characters. Ryan, who we haven't actually raced before, but I've seen him race a few times. He is absolutely one of them again, who's slightly ahead of me in front of pace, but we get away now. Nice clean start, away in 5th. Turn 1 of this track can be a little bit of a pain, especially on the first lap, so we'll see if we can get through cleanly. As we're just sitting behind the little pack in 4th, and you can see in the mirror there that 6th and that are kind of relatively quite far away, so we're kind of alright at the moment as we come in. And oh, looks like we took a little hit there and it forces into a collision there, quite a little bad one where we hit the side of Iron Doctor, but we took a massive shunt from behind and it sort of propelled us into that. So not the cleanest through, but one of them through turn 1, but we're away now, leading this little pack here as the top 3 have really pulled away already with about a 1.5 gap in front. And I get through here, I can get through here. I noticed when I was racing against most people, I can get through there without hitting the brake, whereas most people were hitting the brake. So it's just a case of trying to come off around about the 100-metre marker and shift down as opposed to brake at the 50-metre marker. Seemed to get me through a little bit quicker than those guys that are running behind me, so nice to know to use that to my advantage when we get further into this race and we'll race against a few people. But we have built up that gap a little bit between us and what is now Lay's 1-star. I'd call my main rival in this race in terms of where we are in the standings. He's slightly behind me in the standings, and we're pretty well matched pace for pace. We come around now to the final turn, down to the really long straight, which is all about the slipstream. A little bit too far away from Ryan in front for us to make advantage of slipstream from him, and the good news is we've built up that gap large enough between us and 5th place to not worry about the slipstream from there. So not great for us in terms of speed. If those guys in the pack behind start working in terms of slipstreaming each other and a bit of a bump drafting, they would be able to pull up that gap. So we've got to be aware of that. And there was a lot of chat going on during the race in terms of people trying to help each other out with slipstream, which is really good to hear, but also absolutely terrifying. As you can see, they've knocked off about 2 temps from behind, almost 3 temps through that straight, as I was almost 2 seconds up and now about a 1.5 up. So we come around now to turn 1, holding it together nicely there without touching the wall, and that's much more neater through this time. It's actually not so neat through there, make a little bit of contact on exit, which is going to slow us down for the rest of this straight, but not enough really for OK Ranger to take a hit. It looks like one Lay Stars might have lost it. He seemed to have dropped off there. As we're now about midway through lap 2 and we come through this little S bit again. With just again this nice comfortable gap either side, so we're going to skip forward now. We'll skip forward to lap 5, and not much has changed between these 2 places apart from the top 3 have pulled away a little bit. So you can see Ryan's about 5 seconds in front, pulled away a little bit from the pack in front as well, so we've got about a 3-second gap in front. So it's a 20-minute race, and each lap takes around about 2 minutes. You can see there I'm pulling 2:01s at the minute. I can get into the 2 minutes. My best practice was 2 flat, but with this being a 20-minute race with 2-minute laps, we are looking at a 10-lap race. So I was looking to pit at lap 5, so this is the end of lap 5, so this is the pit, and we'll see where this pulls us out, and depends how many other people have decided to pit here, or whether they go for one more. But I hadn't seen anyone pit so far, so no one went in on lap 4. So we're going back to softs, going to put in a little bit more fuel. As you can see, we've only got just under 2 laps worth of fuel with 5 laps left of the race. You can see just pushing that up until we get over 5 laps worth. So playing it a bit safer, gone with just over 5 laps. Just to make sure that I can see the race through and not end myself in the place I was last week, where I was really having to fuel save on the last lap as I'd run myself a little bit under. We've come out in 9th position with Lay's 1 star just in front and Emil just behind us. So trap between these two here, but with comfortable gaps either side. But obviously these people in front of us, I didn't see many people go into the pits that lap, so hopefully when it all sort of works out, we should find ourselves back up in 4th place as we're still on the out lap. And again, I hit that turn on the exit. That's 2 times that we've seen that now, me hitting that one on the exit, which is a really bad one. You know, if you're going to do it, you know, do it in turn 1 where you sort of lose a lot less time, because you don't, you know, the straight that precedes it isn't as long as this one. As you can see, it's a long straight. As again, not using any brake, just coming off slip to 5th. If we get it right, didn't get that quite right turn. I turned in maybe a little bit too late and didn't have the turn to be able to cut back, so I had to come off the accelerator a little bit there. So not my ideal line through, but not the end of the world anyway, as we are hammering through now with lap 6. We had quite a comfortable gap either side of us, so I was feeling pretty confident, even if it wasn't the cleanest lap, that I'd still get out and hold my 4th place. What I was really hoping is that I'd be able to put in a good lap and try and grind that down that gap that had built between me and Ryan, which I think it was about 4 seconds at the time. But I don't think this lap's been clean enough to be able to do that, so we're definitely racing for 4th here, as Ryan and Legion have just come in to refuel in lap 6. And hopefully what I was hoping to see is everyone else going into pit now as well. But we'll wait and see as we come down the really long. This is a really long straight. It feels like a nice long time to get through it. As you can see how everyone's in pit, and we've now jumped back up to 4th place. So Ryan's extended his gap in front, but we've also extended our gap behind as well. So big 5-second gap either side. So nice and comfy. Can afford a few mistakes through a few corners and stuff. Nothing too serious, like a bad wall collision or anything like that, but you know, a few scrapes and stuff aren't going to hurt us. And we've actually skipped forward now. You can see we're actually now in lap 10. I've skipped forward the rest of the race, and the same comfortable gap either side. Ryan's extended his a little bit, and I've maintained that one with Emil Prisler behind us. So yeah, a kind of, I'll be honest, a quite boring race, because obviously not really much going on in terms of the battles. That's why, in terms of a highlights video, relatively short, because there's not many highlights when you've kind of just got a big gap either side of you. But not going to whinge about the result. Like I said, I feel like those 3 in front of us, Legion, Dan and Ryan, definitely sort of have that little bit of an edge on me in terms of pace, but I feel good to be sort of leading the remainder of the pack and holding on to this 4th place. It puts me in a pretty good place for the next race, which is the reverse grid, that I'm not starting right out from the back. But bear in mind, the people behind me are these 3 fast runners, so to be aware of. But we finish off there with a 2:09, and that is the end of the first race. So a 4th place finish. Pleased with that. I can't whinge at all. And most importantly, I've finished in front of Lay's 1 star as well, who's like I said, like my closest rival in terms of the overall series. So that's really who we're trying to beat in these races. Don't know if he realises that or not. So I'm calling him my informal but formal rival. But there's our 4th place confirmed there. So yeah, like I said, not the most exciting race you ever see in your life, and certainly not as many scraps, and hopefully we'll see something happening a bit more in race 2, but results wise, no complaints at all. So I've raced quite a lot of races now with the Beetle. I've never really raced it before starting this series. I'm actually really enjoying racing the Beetle. I love how stable it feels. It feels really stable in comparison to a lot of Group 3 cars. Whether or not I'd race it in just a Group 3 race, still not sure on that yet, but I'm enjoying it racing it in this one make series. So race number 2, we start in 6th place with it being a reverse grid of the last race. So interesting, these reverse grids, obviously, like I said with each of these videos, the people in front of you in general are slower and the people behind you in general are faster, so it makes for an interesting a dynamic of whether or not you just want to let those faster people get past you, or whether or not you want to push to try and get in front of the people in front of you. So yeah, really interesting. And we're off to not a great start there, as Ryan just gets in front of us, gets off to a bit better off, and Legion moving up a side. We've got Roadrunner Dan just behind, looking like he's actually giving us a bit of a bump draft there, which is very nice of him. Going up into turn 1, so that should allow me to get on the inside of Iron Doctor as we now come in to turn 1. And we actually hit the wall a little bit there, and caused a little bit of carnage there. Yeah, that wasn't great. I'll talk through that in a minute, but yeah, just come off there and let everyone come through and to give those position backs, because that was mostly caused by so what happened there, we went through into turn 1, I clipped that wall in the right, that made me scoot across the road, and I think Dan went into the back of me due to the fact that I hit the wall, and then that just sort of catapulted me forward and causes that chain of chaos that you saw. So did what I thought was right, which was tried to let everyone pass me and give all those places back rather than just sit in front of them all, because yeah, that was not clean at all. So slap on the wrist, but yeah, just unfortunate that I caught the wall there. But we just skip forward now to lap 2, so now we're racing from the back, and we've just taken Mr. Navoli just through that fast mid-section, which we managed to take a little bit faster than him and managed to get that overtake. So yeah, a little bit of chaos that I caused there in turn 1. Hold my hands up and say it was completely my fault for clipping the side of the wall. Hope anyone who was in the race watches this appreciates it wasn't on purpose, just a little bit of a judgment, if you will. Good thing I don't think it's really affected anyone's race too hugely. Although I did mess up as well by the fact that I tried to concede all the places, but I kind of went off the throttle on the exit of the turn, so the people who were behind me, again, caused them a bit of a scuffle there. So even by trying to pass it back, I caused a bit of craziness. But this is what we're here in Tier 2 for, and like I said, I'm the one who come off worse off, so all's all that ends well. So we're in 8th position now, unfortunately a little bit too far behind Iron Doctor to take advantage of the slipstream, and Mr. Navoli's got the slipstream on me. It's actually made that move a little bit early. I probably wouldn't have made that so early, especially with this straight being as long as it is. If you're making that overtake halfway through, as you can see, you're going to give the other driver the slipstream back, and they're going to get in front of you by the time you get round to the next apex. In fact, with the gap that was between us and Iron Doctor, you probably just wanted to sit in my slipstream and either a bump draft me a little bit to move us both forward, or just sit in the slipstream and conserve a bit of fuel. But is what it is. We go forward now, back up to 8th place, so we got that move done at the end of that straight, and we're now just over half a second away from Iron Doctor, but Mr. Navoli about half a second behind, so he's still in a fight either side. It could go either way. It's good in comparison to the last race to actually be involved in a bit of racing here, as I actually hit the wall there coming in a bit tight. I think again, because I go flat out through that bit, I noticed I was coming up really fast on a Major Gambino, so kind of just moved myself off the line a little bit, and I dabbled the brake and it put me off a little bit. So again, back to last place after a little bit of a misjudgment. Like I said, I've got to bear in mind that people are braking through that turn and I'm not, and I need to try and account for it and be aware of it ahead of time. As again, we're behind Mr. Navoli here, coming down to the final hairpin. We're actually going on the outside of him here. Don't know how much we want to do this overtake, because even if we get the overtake, that just puts him in the slipstream coming down the straight. But I'm not necessarily complaining, because even if I was to get behind him, I'd get the slipstream boost and I'd have to sit behind him and a bump draft or wait until I'm at the back end of the straight to make the move. But again, kind of hoping that Mr. Nivoli will do the same thing again and make the move a little bit too early based on what he did last lap, so went with it. So we're actually, you can see with the bit of scrapping we're doing, we're now two and a half seconds behind these guys in the pack of front, and I really don't want to fall this far behind. As much as I'm enjoying this fight I'm having with Mr. Nivoli, we need to start working together to pull this back up. So again, he's made that move a little bit later than last time, so not that bad at all. And I do have slipstream. Am I going to make the move? I don't think I am. I think if I was this time, I'd probably be slipping the nose up, and actually I've afforded him loads of room. And even though I got the braking completely wrong there, so I come on the brakes a little bit early, then didn't brake hard enough for the rest of it and found myself off there. So really got some work to do now to try and get back into this race, as we're at the sort of start of the fourth lap. So not far off halfway through this race and languishing down in last place, but still, like I said, it's in a way it's even more fun than what I was doing last race. As much as I was higher up, is I wasn't really racing anyone, I was just doing laps. So it's, even though we're at the back, it's fun to be racing nonetheless. But it'd be good to see if me and Mr. Nivoli can push up and try and work our way up the grid as we sit at the back here. Coming through again this lovely fast section. Caught a bit of the wall there, but not enough to slow me down too much. So we're keeping nice and tight with Mr. Nivoli. Again, not sure if we're going to try and take an overtake on this turn here. I have slipped onto the inside of him. Again, I don't actually plan to overtake. I kind of want him to take me on the cutback, because I want to sit behind him on this straight, considering what's happened in the past two lines, and that's what I've done there. Looks like I've let him come back around me, and I think this time I'm going to be in the slipstream, and I want to use that to my advantage to try and push us back up against the pack in front, rather than just me and Mr. Nivoli being caught in this trap of just having fights over and over, but getting further and further back from the pack. So this time I am actually behind him, and I'm giving him a little push every now and again, a bump draft from the slipstream, just to push him a bit faster, so we can really close this gap between us and Major Gambino. As again, look, a little bump draft just to give him a little edge. Not looking to make the move until the very end, which I've gone up on the inside now to make the move on him. And forwarding each other, plenty of room there. Coming through nicely. It looks like I'll probably have this on the next bit, as actually make that really nicely without touching the wall. Centimetres in it, actually millimetres in that. And now we've ground that gap down between us and the backpack, and now we're only a second behind. So Mr. Nivoli just sitting just behind me again, only about 2 tenths behind, so he's still certainly in range, but I know I've got the speed through here as he brakes and I don't. And come through now, extending that gap a little bit to just under half a second. Not enough for him to fall off, as he's still in the slipstream range. Actually a little bit happening in front of us there. A few knocks and scrapes allow us to push up that gap a little bit more, and this is what we wanted to be. We wanted to be in slipstream range coming back to the long straight. But also bear in mind we are in our 5th lap, so this is the lap we plan to pit and plan to swap. And I was in two minds coming down here whether or not to see myself out for another lap, bearing in mind now I'm in amongst it and in slipstream. As we move ourselves a little bit forward there, we've still got Major Gambino on the inside, so we take a bit of a wider line to afford him room to see us out, coming out last. But not that bad. But I think we are going to pit. I think given how tight this pack is, we might find that the undercut on the pits will serve as well. So I'm just going to sit in behind Major Gambino, come in and pit and see if we can perhaps be a little bit more tight on the fuel, like unlike last race where we kind of finished the race pretty safe on fuel. I went to about 5.2 laps last time, so I'm going to go a bit less because I had about half a lap of fuel left by the time I come in. So I've gone in with 4.7, so yeah, it's going to be a bit touch and go with 5 laps left. I've gone with 4.7. I'm going to have to look at fuel saving a little bit, but I wanted to make sure my pit time was as low as possible to get in front of people and really just try and climb back some of this race. As I actually skipped forward, There's not much change. So we're actually just at the end of that lap that we're on here. So at the end of lap 6, whilst everyone's coming into their pit, you can see everyone's coming into pit now. Major Gambino, Laser 1 star, Ryan's come in as well. I assume whoever's in 4th has also come in. So let's see where this fares us as we come out and come through and see if we've managed to make this, taking on slightly less fuel and going for the undercut, whether we've made it work for us. As we now come out in 6th position, but Iron Doctor in front of us, but obviously we've got a lot more pace on him and it looks like we're going to get past it. So doing the underkit there has moved us up to 5th place, so that's worked out really well for us. Still got maybe a little bit of fuel we might have to consider towards the back end of the race, you know. Didn't take on as much fuel as last time, and last time I finished the race with about half a lap, maybe just over half a lap of fuel left. So this time I went trying to use my head a little bit. Thought, well, I'll take half a lap of fuel less than last time and maybe fuel save a little bit, and hopefully that will see us through. But we've got Iron Doctor about half a second behind us, and he looks like he's going to be trying to make the move, maybe coming through here. Risky area to try and make an overtake. It looks like he didn't actually get up enough in time. Obviously I went through that bit flat out again and again. I think he's breaking through that, so affording me the advantage. But a nice fight here at the moment between myself and Iron Doctor. I actually really enjoyed the fight between myself and Mr. Anavoli as well. We were sort of passing each other to and fro, so it was really fun to do. So if you end up watching this, thanks for the battle. And actually not having a bad on here with Iron Doctor. Again, is in that horrible range coming into this. He's about half a second behind us, so I've got to make this hairpin count to get out of slipstream range, or else he's going to get back past me again and I'm going to drop down to 6th place. As we've got Lays 1 star, again my informal but informal arrival. I don't know if he knows that I'm his rival, but I'm calling him it. He's about 2 seconds in front of me, so it'd be nice to see if I can perhaps even get in front of him, because that's ultimately what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to beat Lays 1 star, and after, you know, what was still at the back, come around the 4th lap, being in, coming into the 8th lap, I'm only 2 seconds behind him now, so really could make it count. As Iron Doctor looks like he's got that slipstream range and has gone up and has made the move, affording me a little bit of time to get on his slipstream as well. Am I going to make the pass again on him? As we come up into turn 1, I've actually slipped on the inside. We're neck and neck as we come through, and am I going to get the braking right and the exit right? It looks like caught the wall a little bit, but he's not managed to get past me. As we come round now, again catching the wall there, not doing great for those 2 turns, so he's probably going to get past me again as I come off the pace, and he has, coming through to these S-bends. Again, I know I've got that pace on him coming through this little fast section here, where again a lot of people brake and I'm lifting off. I see him braking and I'm not, so you can see that it's just affording me that just little inch extra to nip in front and take that place. So sitting back up now in 5th place, coming through, and Lays 1 star still with that 2 second gap with about 2.5 laps left. In terms of fuel wise, we've got just over a quarter of a tank, and it is going to be really tight towards the end of this race, especially how hard I'm pushing as well, because I'm pushing hard to try and push back against these people, especially against a Lays, which I have ground back a little bit of time for him. Not in slipstream range yet, but I'm really hoping I get out of slipstream range from Iron Doctor, because I don't want to be caught in a fight with him again for the next lap. And we're just out of slipstream range, and it looks like that's growing, so it looks like we've managed to get that. And we actually are gaining on Lays 1 star as well, so we get a really good turn for the hairpin. Not enough to get any slip from him, but enough that we can gain on him coming into these last 2 laps. So a lot more going on in this race than in the last race. Really fun to commentate over this race. As we come in now to the last 2 laps, really have pulled back on 4th place. Only 12 tenths behind. Coming up, this is a really long straight. Could really have a play with your radio or whatever you need to do in your leisure time. If you come round now to turn 1, nice through there. Again, ever so slightly grinding down that gap between us and Lay's 1 star. And kind of, I know I'm really close with the fuel and this is a really risky move, but I'm really pushing the car, which is kind of not what you want to be doing when you're effectively going to be on the limit with fuel at the end of this race. But I felt like at this point in the race I had the consistency over Lay's 1 star, who felt like he had the pace on me, but just didn't have the consistency to be able to keep his laps in. So I have managed to gain on this lap. I'm actually 8 tenths up on my best here, so if I was to finish this lap off in this sort of time, that would be actually a really good time for me. I think the best time I ever ran in practice was a minute flat. Wasn't able to break into the 1:59 barrier, try as hard as I might. But I was quite happy with my 2 minute flat, as I'm actually now only 7 tenths behind Lay's 1 star. If I can get this hairpin right and better through him, and I'm going to be in slipstream range coming in straight, which is kind of what you want as we come into what would be the last lap of the race. And then really it comes to the question of, can I make the pass, make it stick, and conserve the fuel, which is going to become a problem. So I think I'm going to put the fuel up at the top. As you can see there, just under 1 lap of fuel remaining, and I've just gone round now, so it's kind of really close there in terms of the totals. And again, as much as I want a fuel save, I probably should have slipstreamed there for a little bit more in the effort to fuel save. Probably not thinking quite clearly there as I make that pass and get in front, giving him enough time to slipstream and move back. But I've taken the inside line. I knew I wanted the inside line because I think I've taken a few people on the inside here, and Lay's goes for that wider, trying to get the exit speed on me, but it's quite hard to move back on this once someone gets you on that inside on turn 1. And we actually get through turn 2 really neatly there. It's kind of exactly what we wanted. Turn 2 is so much important, so much more important than turn 1. If you get on that inside in turn 1 and hold your position, you should be on the inside or in a good place going into turn 2, and that's where you need to make it count. Because again, we don't break through here, which is a risky move again with a little bit of tyre wear. Not enough that it's real bad, but it's still relatively close. It's still Lay's drifting around that half-second mark. I don't really want him to be having slipstream coming back up that straight. Fuel-wise, you can see we're at 0.3 laps remaining, so I'm still pushing it when really I probably shouldn't be. There's now, it's been confirmed we are on our final lap. It's going to be a close finish. We've actually extended that a little bit more. Lay's must have lost it a little bit, and we've gone over that threshold. That slipstream threshold is exactly what we want, and we seem to be doing a little bit better on this hairpin than Lay's as well, so we'll just see if we can make this count. It's actually run a little bit wide, but as long as I get the speed right and get on the accelerator early enough. So we're just over a second out, and that fuel is on 1%, so this is going to be really, really close as we come down now towards the finish line. Fuel 0, so we're just about to run out of fuel, and you can hear the fuel has actually just gone. We're out of fuel. Lay's is closing that gap, but we just coast it over with a very, very close 4th place finish. Very close. Run it very, very fortunate on the fuel there. Maybe should have tried to fuel save a little bit more, but like I said, I was really pushing it. Really pushing it to the line, trying to secure 4th place, which I managed to do. So, yeah, pleased to come out with what was a lucky a result after what was a bad start to a very good race. Enjoyed that race a lot more than the first race. Obviously the first race was good in terms of result, but in terms of fun racing, it's all good to put in the laps, but it's good to have people to race against. So yeah, special thanks to Mr. Navoli, Iron Doctor, and Lay's 1 star there for some interesting fights. And pleased with the result as well, to come out in 4th place again. You know, I knew the 3 in front of me, Ryan, Dan and Legion, definitely have me in terms of pace, and they're not the ones I'm really competing with when it comes to the championship. I'm competing with Lay's, and unfortunately Red couldn't get on tonight. So yeah, it puts us in good stead going into next week. So that is the end of round 6 of I think it's 10 rounds overall, so we've still got a few more weeks to go. We'll check out how this week has done on our points when we come around to the start of next week's video. But thanks everyone for taking the time to watch. I've been me, and you've been you, and that's how it works. So yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe. If you're interested in taking part in the Amigos racing and stuff like that, don't forget to to go into their Discord channel, which I've put in the link in the description. and you can take part in all the private races. They've got a lot of series going on, really good fun, and they cater to all skill levels, so be sure to take part. But for now, I've been me, you've been you, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Alright, cheers, bye.